What if I told you that Meghan Markle, Duchess of Sussex and once the most Googled woman on earth, just faced one of the most humiliating public rejections of her post-royal life, and it happened in front of cameras, reporters, fans, and the entire cast of one of the hottest shows on television? Picture it. The 2025 Gotham Awards. Glitz, gravitas, cinematic royalty. You've got Oscar nominees brushing shoulders with breakout indie darlings. Paparazzi crowding barricades. The night's big buzz? The Sinners cast reunion. Michael B. Jordan, Zoe Kravitz, Oscar Isaac, Jurnee Smollett, all returning for a surprise photo call that had filmed Twitter salivating before it even happened. Before we continue, please hit the like button, subscribe to the channel, and turn on the notification bell for updates. And then, there she was, Meghan Markle, emerging like a surprise plot twist in a movie nobody asked for. Was it a publicity ambush? A strategic photobomb? Or just a badly timed misunderstanding from a woman desperately clinging to relevance? One thing was certain. Michael B. Jordan, typically known for his chill demeanor and gentlemanly restraint, did something no one expected. He turned to her, cameras rolling, cast assembled, moments from that iconic reunion photo, and reportedly told her something that would set social media on fire. Step aside. 2 words. That's it. No drama. No yelling. No mess. But the fallout? Oh, the fallout was seismic. Because within hours, the internet exploded. Lip readers dissected every frame. PR pundits speculated whether it was a rebuke, a boundary, or something deeper. And fans of both camps, the royal watchers and the Hollywood cinephiles, were left stunned, watching the Duchess of Sussex become the unwelcome guest at one of the most exclusive events of the year. So here's the real question. What actually happened? Why was Meghan even there? Was this all a misunderstanding, or a perfectly planned move gone horribly, spectacularly wrong? And most importantly, what made Michael B. Jordan, Hollywood's most likable leading man, draw a line in the sand, in public, with Meghan Markle? This isn't just about a red carpet snub. It's about image, power, timing, and one woman's relentless attempt to control her narrative colliding with a man who was done playing along. And the timing couldn't have been worse. Because Meghan's public brand has been on life support. After her cooking show quietly fizzled out, after her lifestyle brand, as ever, was roasted online for allegedly copying Goop and failing to ship half its orders, after rumblings of friction with streaming partners. This was supposed to be a soft comeback. The Gotham Awards weren't even her scene. Indie film. Gritty art house credibility. Nothing about Meghan's image screamed Gotham appropriate. And yet, there she was, smiling, posing, hovering near the Sinners cast like an Instagram filter waiting to be added. Some said it was desperation. Others said it was delusion. But those closest to the situation, they saw it coming. And what we'll uncover over the next hour is a layered, sometimes surreal story, one that goes deeper than a blocked photo. Because behind the glitz and the cameras, there were whispered conversations, subtle shade, quiet refusals, and yes, a moment when even Meghan Markle had to confront a truth more brutal than any tabloid headline. Not every room is hers to dominate. Not every celebrity wants to be her ally. And not every Hollywood moment can be hijacked for PR. But before we go deeper, let's rewind. Just for a second. You see, in the days leading up to the Gotham Awards, Meghan's team had been suspiciously quiet. No planned media stops. No major publications teasing her presence. Nothing on the Vogue radar. A rare silence. And then, boom, a last-minute surprise appearance. Red carpet alerts buzzing just minutes before the livestream. She was dressed in a deep burgundy gown, a color almost identical to Zoe Kravitz's look from the 2023 Gotham Awards, sparking instant copycat memes. She arrived solo, her usual entourage reduced to one assistant and one photographer who some claimed was not on the official press list. So again, was this planned with the organizers? Or was this a well-dressed ambush? Because let's be honest, you don't just show up to the Gotham Awards without a clear purpose. This isn't the Emmys. This isn't the Golden Globes. It's a selective, reputation-driven celebration of independent film and prestige television. Attendees are handpicked. It's not about flashing diamonds or pushing perfume brands. It's about respect. So what was Meghan hoping to gain? One theory: proximity. See, Michael B. Jordan is hot right now. Not just hot as in shirtless in Creed v. Hot, but hot in the Hollywood power sense. His production company just inked a massive first-look deal with Amazon. His performances have evolved from action hero bravado to subtle, Oscar-worthy depth. He's the poster boy for reinvention done right. And Meghan? Let's just say her reinvention tour has hit a few potholes. But here's where it gets even more bizarre. Multiple sources close to the Sinners cast said they were given a specific instruction backstage. The reunion photo was to be tight. Cast only. No hangers-on. No unexpected cameos. It was about the legacy of the show. The magic of reuniting talent that once defined an era of indie television. So when Meghan hovered just outside the group, inching closer as Michael greeted Oscar Isaac with a bear hug, something was off. She wasn't being greeted. She wasn't being included. She was being ignored. And for someone used to commanding the spotlight, that silence must have been deafening. What came next was quick, but not quick enough to avoid cameras. As Meghan stepped forward, right as the photographer was about to click, Michael turned. He looked directly at her. And then he said it. Step aside. It wasn't angry. It wasn't dramatic. But it was devastating. In those two words, a line was drawn. Not just between two celebrities, but between two worlds. The world of genuine artistry. And the world of strategic self-promotion. And here's the thing. Meghan didn't argue. She froze. Blinked. Tilted her head like she hadn't heard him. But she stepped back. The photo went on. The Sinners cast got their moment. And Meghan? She vanished from frame. But not from memory. Because moments later, every major entertainment site had picked it up. Entertainment Tonight. Variety. Page 6. BuzzFeed. You name it. Speculation exploded. Was Michael being cruel? Was Meghan trespassing on someone else's spotlight? Or, and this is the kicker, was this the result of months, maybe years, of behind-the-scenes tension boiling over in one simple phrase? You see, what many don't realize is that this wasn't the first time Meghan had tried to position herself near Michael B. Jordan. Rumors swirled back in 2020 when they were allegedly both approached for a Vogue cover shoot featuring Black Hollywood royalty. Michael was in. Meghan wanted in. The cover never happened. Some say creative differences. Others say scheduling. But now, years later, it was all coming to a head. And this time, there were cameras. Fans immediately took sides. Team Michael praised his boundaries. Team Meghan decried a public humiliation. But the real twist? Michael never spoke about it again. Not in the press. Not on social media. But what he did do. That's where the Real story begins. Because what came next would change everything, and no one saw it coming. Was Meghan Markle even supposed to be there? That was the question that began spreading like wildfire before the night was even over. And not from tabloids. Not from royal gossip accounts. From industry insiders. People who actually work these events. Who manage the flow of high-profile guests, publicists, red carpet positions, and seating charts. People who know who's invited, and who just shows up hoping to be noticed. So, let's pull back the curtain. The 2025 Gotham Awards was not your average celebrity parade. This wasn't the Oscars where every A-lister with a contract gets a +1 and a media handler. This was a carefully curated, invitation-only event with an emphasis on cinematic integrity. Think gritty storytelling, indie auteurs, passion projects, and prestige TV series that critics love, but the average Netflix scroller has never heard of. It's not about who's loudest. It's about who's respected. And Meghan Markle? She hasn't exactly been topping those lists lately, which is why, when she emerged from a glossy black SUV, flanked not by high-profile security, but by a personal assistant and a photographer most press agencies didn't recognize, the whispers began. Because this wasn't her kind of event. There were no cameras screaming her name. No studio banners celebrating a new project. No official press release announcing her as a guest of honor, presenter, or even a partner brand sponsor. And yet, there she was, draped in a floor-length, deep burgundy gown with an exaggerated shoulder silhouette, minimal jewelry, and an expression somewhere between serene and determined. A look designed to say, I belong here. But did she? Because minutes before she arrived, an updated guest list had circulated backstage. These are digital spreadsheets shared among PR teams, seating coordinators, and red carpet handlers to ensure smooth logistics. Her name was not on it. And yet she was striding confidently toward the red carpet's velvet rope, where baffled security checked credentials and scrambled earpieces echoed urgent murmurs. Did someone on her team pull a last-minute favor? Was a publicist coerced? Was this a media courtesy access granted without oversight? Nobody seemed to know. And that, right there, is where things started to unravel. Because in Hollywood, where image is currency, who invites you matters just as much as what you wear. Let's talk about motive. Why would Meghan crash an event like this? Her last known project, the much-hyped With Love, Meghan cooking series, had been shelved after just 2 months of sporadic uploads. Rumors swirled of creative disagreements, budget overruns, and inconsistent branding. Critics called it a Pinterest board without a soul. Then came, as ever, her lifestyle brand, meant to rival Goop. But shipping delays, customer complaints, and product recall warnings turned the launch into a logistical headache. Meghan's name was starting to carry baggage, and not the designer kind. So what better way to pivot than to be seen with a real star? A respected star. Michael B. Jordan. Let's be honest. He's everything Meghan wishes her brand could be. Clean, powerful, admired, drama-free. An image so bulletproof, not even TMZ dares to speculate about his personal life. And now, he's leading the Sinners reunion. The most talked about cultural moment of the night. The one photo that would be reprinted across Vulture, Vanity Fair, The Hollywood Reporter, and more. A photo Meghan was clearly determined to be in. But first, she had to get on the carpet. Let's break down the moment, second by second. When Meghan stepped onto the arrival platform, the photographers didn't immediately react. Some didn't even raise their cameras. There was confusion. Was she here to present? Accept an award? Support someone? No one knew. She took position near the branded backdrop. She posed. A few hesitant clicks. Then more. But not a full frenzy. Not like the old days. What changed? Maybe it was fatigue. Maybe it was Meghan's reputation for controlling media narratives. Or maybe it was that no one expected her to show up to this. Meanwhile, the press line was focused on the real headliner, the Sinners cast. Michael had just arrived minutes earlier, greeted with whoops and cheers from a crowd that had been waiting hours in the December cold. Zoe Kravitz appeared shortly after, wearing vintage Galliano. Oscar Isaac strolled in last, arm in arm with his wife, looking every bit the indie icon. Backstage, the mood was electric. Producers of the show whispered excitedly about the upcoming reunion photo. Publicists corralled talent for interviews. Cast members exchanged hugs and jokes. It felt like a homecoming. And outside that bubble stood Meghan, waiting, strategizing, hoping for an opening. Now, to be fair, no one can prove Meghan intended to crash the reunion photo. But the timing? It couldn't have been more suspicious. Just as Michael and Zoe began posing together near the center of the red carpet, Meghan subtly adjusted her trajectory. She moved closer, not directly toward them, but close enough to frame herself within the edges of every wide-angle lens. She began smiling, laughing, turning to face cameras as if she were part of the event. But the cast didn't acknowledge her. Not once. There's a painful pause caught in one video clip. Meghan's body turns slightly, as if expecting Michael to greet her. He doesn't. Instead, he adjusts his sleeve, smiles for the camera, and motions for Zoe to step closer. Then Oscar steps in. The core Sinners trio forms a triangle of star power. And Meghan? She stands just inches outside it. Still smiling. Still waiting. The photographers begin shouting names. Michael. Zoe. Over here. Oscar. Look left. No one says Meghan. And then, just before the photographer counts down for the big reunion photo, she takes one more step forward. It's subtle, calculated, intentional. 1 foot across an invisible line. And that's when it happens. Michael glances sideways. He sees her. Their eyes meet, just for a fraction of a second. Then he turns his head slightly and says something. No yelling. No fuss. But the words, according to multiple lip readers and even a leaked fan video, are crystal clear. Step aside. It's not rude. It's not mocking. It's direct. A boundary in real time. And Meghan? She pauses. Frozen mid-step. The smile falters, but only slightly. She takes a breath. Then, with surprising grace, she steps back. Just enough. The moment passes. The flashbulbs explode. The reunion photo is taken. History is made, without her. But inside the velvet ropes, the murmurs begin. Publicists texting each other. Did you see that? Was that Meghan? She wasn't on the list. Outside, fans start uploading blurry videos. Social media kicks into overdrive. Hashtag step aside trends by midnight. But the bigger question starts forming beneath the surface. Was Meghan's presence an accident, or a PR strategy gone painfully wrong? Because here's where things get even more bizarre. Backstage, several journalists from fashion and entertainment outlets reveal that Meghan's team had reached out the day before, offering exclusive moments and red carpet candids with unnamed talent. One editor for a major online magazine says they declined, calling the offer vague and disorganized. Another says the timing didn't make sense. The whole thing felt last minute, like someone was trying to force their way into coverage without a real reason to be there. Which begs the question, what was the plan? Was Meghan hoping that being seen next to Michael B. Jordan would reframe her narrative? Was this a desperation move? A Hail Mary pass from a woman watching her star power slip? Or was it something more layered? An attempt to insert herself into Hollywood's current prestige renaissance and remind the world she's still in the game? And maybe the better question is, what happens when the game no longer plays you back? Because while Meghan was stepping aside, quietly stunned, the cameras didn't stop. They captured it all. And someone else, someone standing just out of frame, was already uploading a video clip that would make the entire internet implode. A clip that showed more than just a rebuke. It showed her lips moving. 3 desperate words. Words that, when slowed down and zoomed in, would change everything we thought we knew about what happened on that carpet. But what came next would change everything. And no one saw it coming. What makes a man command a room without saying a word? What makes photographers adjust their lenses, reporters shuffle toward the barricades, and actors pause mid-sentence just to catch a glimpse? Answer, Michael B. Jordan. And on the night of the 2025 Gotham Awards, his entrance wasn't just a red carpet moment. It was a cinematic event. The kind you could set to a slow-motion track and hear audiences cheer in your head before a word's even spoken. The Gotham Awards aren't known for bombastic arrivals. It's a place where prestige speaks quietly and loudly all at once. Where a subtle nod means more than a viral selfie. Where quality and respect matter more than clout. But Michael? He brought both. When his car pulled up, a sleek charcoal Aston Martin with tinted windows and no entourage, it was a masterclass in restraint. A message. He didn't need hype. He was the hype. The second he stepped out, the atmosphere shifted. A hush, then a wave. Reporters locked eyes. Phones raised. Photographers lunged. And just like that, he owned it. Wearing a tailored, midnight blue tux with sharp lapels and a subtle diamond pin, a nod, some say, to his late friend Chadwick Boseman, Michael strolled forward with the calm confidence of someone who's not just made it, but remade it. Because let's not forget, this wasn't the Michael B. Jordan from that awkward moment. This wasn't even the Creed-era Michael. This was the Michael who survived the Marvel machine, delivered Just Mercy, executive-produced Emmy-nominated miniseries, and most recently led a full cultural renaissance with Sinners, the prestige television thriller that redefined what streaming drama could be. He didn't need to say a word. He was the event, and the Gotham Awards knew it. His name wasn't just on the guest list, it was on people's lips all week. Even before the cast reunion of Sinners was confirmed, speculation swirled. Would they all come? Would Michael attend in person? Was there a surprise trailer drop? A secret announcement? The producers played coy. But deep down, everyone hoped. Because Sinners wasn't just a hit. It was a phenomenon. A slow burn, neo-noir fever dream with moral ambiguity, violent beauty, and characters so layered you didn't know whether to root for them or run from them. And at the center of it all, Michael's character, Elias Dorn. A former civil rights attorney turned underground fixer, a man haunted by choices, dragging both audience and cast into an emotional sinkhole. Critics called it Shakespeare in a hoodie. And fans? They called it addiction. So when the whispers began that the cast would reunite, it became the headline. A moment not just for nostalgia, but for power. And power is exactly what Michael brought with him that night. But here's the twist. He didn't dominate the carpet. He shared it. And that's part of what made his presence so impactful. The moment he stepped forward, he didn't bask. He waited, paused near the edge, scanned the crowd, then turned, casually, but intentionally, to welcome his castmates. First came Zoe Kravitz. Draped in vintage Galliano, sleek bob tucked behind one ear, smoky eyes locked on Michael. She didn't need introduction. Together, they formed the kind of visual energy that screamed iconic without trying. They didn't pose. They stood. Strong. Balanced. Equal. Then came Oscar Isaac, with that ever-so-unbothered charm. A smirk. A handshake that turned into a hug. And Journey Smollett not far behind, stepping up in custom metallic Versace like she owned the moonlight. And Michael? He let them shine. He stepped back in group photos, made room for Zoe at center, nudged Oscar forward when the lights started flashing too hard. No ego. Just leadership. Compare that with certain others. There was no awkward maneuvering. No fake laughs. No panicked scanning of the room for photographers. Just respect. Cohesion. Teamwork. And that, right there, is why Meghan's moment clashed so sharply. Because Michael's Gotham appearance was not a vanity stop. It wasn't about clicks or algorithms. It was about legacy, about art, about honoring a show that meant something. So when Meghan edged closer, trying to wedge herself into the visual narrative, it didn't just feel off, it felt wrong. But let's pause. This chapter isn't about Meghan's misstep. It's about Michael's control. Because in a town where image is currency, Michael B. Jordan is playing chess while others are still fumbling with checkers. And the truth? He didn't need to snub anyone. He just needed to stay consistent. You see, what few people realize is that Michael has been careful, meticulously careful, with his public alignment for years. He rarely comments on political firestorms unless the message is unified and focused. He avoids messy entanglements. He doesn't pose for photos that might later be twisted into tabloid fiction. And most importantly, he never allows anyone to use him. Not studios, not journalists, and certainly not celebrities trying to ride his wave. Because he knows something most don't. Every photo is a story. Every frame tells the audience who matters. And when your brand is built on integrity, you can't afford to lend it to someone whose own narrative is riddled with inconsistencies, controversy, and whispered fallouts. So when Michael saw Meghan drifting toward the photo zone, it wasn't just about that moment. It was about optics, context, respect. He didn't yell. He didn't wave her off. He simply turned and, according to multiple independent observers, said, "Step aside." 2 words. But what did they really mean? Here's where things get interesting. Sources close to the cast have hinted that this wasn't the first time Meghan tried to align herself with sinners. Apparently, during the height of the show's critical acclaim, her team floated the idea of a Duchess cameo or a guest directorial appearance. Talks didn't go far. Why? Because Michael wasn't interested in gimmicks. He told his team, privately but firmly, that sinners had to stay rooted in authenticity. No stunts. No vanity cameos. Just story. Fast forward to the Gotham Awards. Same energy. Same boundary. And this time, it played out in public. But here's where Michael's strategy worked. He didn't need to post a tweet. He didn't need to issue a statement. He didn't even need to acknowledge the drama. Because within minutes, the internet had already picked up the baton. Fan accounts flooded X and TikTok with commentary. Some called him the king of boundaries. Others applauded him for protecting the legacy of sinners. And some went even further, posting old interviews where Michael talks about respecting the work, honoring the craft, and not letting ego distract from the message. Suddenly, the narrative wasn't about Meghan's embarrassment. It was about Michael's example. And that's a story the industry loves to tell. Because in a town plagued by scandal and self-promotion, a man who stays calm, focused, and respectful becomes a legend. And legends don't need to clap back. They just show up. But here's where things get even more poetic. Just hours after the photo went viral, Michael posted a single Instagram story. No caption, just a black and white behind-the-scenes clip from the Sinners reunion. Laughter, hugs, candid smiles. Meghan? Not in sight. The message? Loud and clear. This was about them. The people who built something real. Together. And yet, even then, something else was brewing. Because behind the glamour, behind the praise, behind the subtle clapback, one fan's phone had captured something even more damning. A clip, 3 seconds long, just enough to reveal a whisper, a plea, a quiet moment that the main cameras missed. Meghan's voice, mouthing the words, "Please, just one pic." And suddenly, everything changed. Because now, it wasn't just about Michael's boundary. It was about Meghan's desperation. And what came next would change everything, and no one saw it coming. What happens when a cast becomes a cult? Not a cult in the weird, backroom Hollywood sense, but in the people would follow them into fire kind of way. Because that's what Sinners became. A series that started quietly on a boutique streamer and exploded into a phenomenon. Gritty, visceral, written like Shakespeare for the streaming age. You didn't just watch it, you felt it. You argued about it in Reddit threads, screamed at the TV when a character made the wrong choice, rewatched season finales like they were sacred texts. And at the heart of it all, a cast that clicked like lightning in a bottle. Michael B. Jordan, Zoe Kravitz, Oscar Isaac, Jurnee Smollett, all brilliant on their own. But together, they made Sinners something rare, something real. So when the 2025 Gotham Awards teased their reunion, it wasn't just nostalgic. It was necessary. Fans didn't just want a photo. They wanted closure. Would the cast ever return for a final season? Was a feature film secretly in development? Would Elias and Camille ever find peace? Would Jonah finally get justice? And that's the energy they brought to the carpet. Unity. Not staged. Not forced. Earned. Let's paint the picture. Zoe Kravitz arrived first, poised, radiant, wearing a vintage Galliano gown so delicately embroidered it seemed to float as she walked. Her smile was restrained but warm, a woman both stylish and unbothered. Then Oscar Isaac entered. Understated in a monochrome charcoal suit, salt and pepper curls left untamed, eyes twinkling with the kind of charm that makes you lean in just to hear him speak. Then Michael B. Jordan, calm, centered, quietly powerful. And Jurnee Smollett followed, like the punctuation at the end of an emotional sentence, fierce, radiant, wearing a metallic off-the-shoulder look that caught the lights like a disco ball in slow motion. They didn't need a script. Their reunion was the story. And the media knew it. Cameras started shifting. Interviewers cleared paths. Red carpet coordinators made space. This wasn't a walk, it was a coronation. But what made it even more powerful? They didn't treat it like one. There were no grand declarations. No solo interviews. They posed together, laughing, leaning into each other like it was high school reunion meets family reunion. The chemistry, the real kind, crackled in every interaction. A behind-the-scenes video showed Michael cracking a joke and Zoe doubling over in laughter, Oscar pretending to moonwalk, and Jurnee tossing her clutch in the air and catching it with one hand while saying, "Let's give them a moment." And yet, just feet away, someone else watched from the sidelines. Meghan Markle, still on the carpet, still trying to find her moment. At first, she lingered at the far end of the press line. But as the cast moved closer to the step-in-repeat backdrop, her proximity tightened. Cameras caught her shifting position. A subtle pivot, an arch of the back, a glance over the shoulder. Some viewers called it coincidence. Others weren't so generous. Because here's what insiders began whispering backstage. Meghan's team had been asking for a joint press opportunity in the weeks leading up to the event. Not with the cast. With Michael. A partnership pitch. Something vague. Global impact, black excellence, cultural synergy. Sources say the request was passed on. Politely. Firmly. And that makes what happened next even more telling. As the four cast members locked arms for the main shot, the one the fans had been begging for, Meghan took 2 steps forward. Just enough to enter the wide frame. And that's when Michael turned. No smile. Just a look. Then the words, "Step aside." A moment that froze time. And that's when the emotional engine of this story kicked in. Because this wasn't just a woman being told to move. This was a woman who used to own carpets, now being visibly excluded from one. A woman who used to command the flashbulbs, now being ignored by them. You could feel the disconnect. As the cast continued posing, seamless, electric, joyful, Meghan stood still, blinking, then recovering. It was only a second, but it said everything, and the internet noticed. Within minutes, screenshots flooded social media. Side-by-side comparisons. Meghan's isolated frame contrasted with the cast's unity. Fans dubbed it the most cinematic snub in award show history. But more importantly, they celebrated the cast. Finally, the spotlight was back where it belonged. On the actors who carried the cultural moment. Who delivered dialogue that left people speechless. Who turned grief, rage, injustice, and love into performance so real it bled through the screen. They didn't need noise. They needed each other. And that's why the reunion landed with such emotional force. It wasn't PR. It wasn't branding. It was artistic closure. A reminder that some stories and some ensembles still mean something, still move people. And Meghan? She became the footnote, the distraction that highlighted the authenticity by contrast. The question people didn't ask was, why wasn't she allowed in the photo? The real question was, why would she even think she should be? Because this wasn't her story. It never was. And in a town where fame can be faked but chemistry can't, that moment was pure, raw, and real. But just as the applause was settling, just as the cameras began packing away, someone captured a new clip. A fan, standing just behind the security rail. She zoomed in, caught it from a different angle, and what it revealed was that Meghan hadn't just walked up and waited. She had spoken. She had pleaded. She had mouthed something just before Michael looked at her. And what came next would change everything, and no one saw it coming. 2 words. Just 2. But they landed like a thunderclap. Step aside. No shouting. No dramatic gestures. No public meltdown. It wasn't even delivered with anger. But somehow, that made it worse. Colder. Sharper. Final. And the timing? Devastatingly perfect. Because Michael B. Jordan didn't say it behind closed doors. He didn't whisper it backstage. He said it, right there. On the red carpet, in front of dozens of high-powered lenses, live stream cameras, and publicists with quick thumbs and quicker gossip. And now, it was everywhere. But let's rewind the footage, frame by frame. Because if you look closely, closer than the casual viewer, closer than even most of the press, you'll notice something crucial. Meghan didn't just wander near the cast. She spoke first. Caught from a previously unseen angle, a handheld iPhone video recorded by a sharp-eyed fan standing near the barricades, the truth emerged. Meghan looked at Michael. Her mouth moved. 3 small words, just barely audible over the clamor. Please, just one. That's it. And within a heartbeat, his face shifted. A flicker of tension in his jawline. A pause. Then his eyes met hers. And then he said it. Step aside. No venom. No sarcasm. Just firm. Absolute. And Meghan? She blinked. For a second, it looked like she was about to respond. You could see the calculation, the inner PR wheels turning behind her eyes. But then, she did something unexpected. She obeyed. She took a half step back, tried to smile, tilted her head slightly as if laughing at some joke only she could hear, trying, maybe, to salvage the moment, to play it off, to control the optics. But it was too late, because the footage had already been captured. And by the time she returned to the far end of the carpet, walking slowly, avoiding reporters, the video had begun to circulate. First, a few anonymous fan accounts posted it. Then a couple of celebrity tea pages picked it up. Then, boom, it hit X, formerly Twitter. And within minutes, it became the #1 trending topic in both the United States and the United Kingdom. Hashtag Step Aside Meghan. Hashtag Gotham Gate. Hashtag Sinners Not Stunts. Suddenly, what should have been a quiet, elegant evening celebrating indie excellence had become something else entirely, a cultural flashpoint. A viral storm. People weren't just reacting, they were analyzing. Lip readers, body language experts, publicists, photographers, fans, critics. Everyone had a theory. Some called it a professional boundary. Some labeled it a cold dismissal. Some spun conspiracy-level interpretations. Was this the culmination of a long-standing feud? Had Michael been coached by his team? Was this about race, respect, or reputation? The opinions were loud. But the clip? It was silent. And that silence spoke volumes. Because in that moment, it became clear. This wasn't just a red carpet incident. This was a mirror. A moment reflecting everything swirling around Meghan Markle's public persona for the past 5 years. Her pursuit of validation, her miscalculations, the endless tension between how she sees herself and how others see her. Let's ask the question everyone's thinking. Why did she ask for that photo? Why then? Why him? Because the Meghan Markle of now is not the same Meghan of the 2018 royal wedding. The glow has dimmed. The narrative has fractured. The audience has shifted. And Michael? He represents something she no longer owns. Undisputed public admiration. In that moment, a photo with him wasn't just about a snapshot. It was about re-entry. Into the spotlight. Into cultural relevance. Into proximity with someone who still had the thing she'd lost. credibility. But here's the catch. Michael doesn't give that away. Not for pity. Not for optics. Not for anyone. Because he knows what's at stake. His career has never been about scandal. It's been about craft. He's the guy who brought real lawyers into the writer's room for Just Mercy. He's the guy who passed on blockbuster roles to produce indie films with underrepresented voices. He's the guy who never took the bait when tabloids tried to link him romantically to every actress within arm's reach. He doesn't play games. And Meghan? That night, she tried. Just one photo. Just one smile. Just one arm draped around a respected star to reignite her credibility. But Michael refused to be used. And in doing so, he gave Hollywood a masterclass in quiet, intentional boundary setting. No drama. No PR statement. Just step aside. Those words hit like a scalpel. Precise, contained, but deeply cutting. And they triggered something no one expected, the unraveling. Because what followed wasn't just a viral video. It was a chain reaction. Within hours, publicists were texting journalists. Did you see it? Fashion bloggers began questioning Meghan's dress. Was she copying Zoe Kravitz's 2023 look? Film critics tweeted subtle jabs. Tonight's theme is authenticity. Some forgot the dress code. Even industry insiders who'd worked with Meghan in the past started sharing cryptic posts. One stylist reposted the video with the caption, "Oof. We told her." Told her what? To stop forcing moments? To stop chasing people who weren't chasing her? Or maybe just to step aside? And here's the thing about viral moments. They don't die quietly. Because once the internet smells blood, it becomes forensic. Users slowed the clip, zoomed in, replayed it, picked apart Meghan's posture, her facial expressions, the slight twitch in Michael's brow before he spoke. It became evidence. And yet, amid the noise, one fact remained clear. Michael B. Jordan said what many in Hollywood have felt for a long time. You don't belong in every frame. And while some rushed to defend Meghan, pointing to the pressures of public life, the unpredictability of media narratives, and the deep misogynoir she's faced, others pushed back. They said this wasn't about racism. This wasn't about royalty. This was about respect. Respect for a moment that wasn't hers. Respect for a cast reuniting to celebrate their work. Respect for someone else's earned spotlight. Because let's be honest, Meghan Markle has been in enough rooms. Enough boardrooms. Enough red carpets. She knows how these things work. You don't just walk into someone else's moment. You don't insert yourself without being asked. And you definitely don't ask for a photo after you've been explicitly left out. Unless you think you're still entitled to the spotlight. Unless you believe one photo can fix a damaged narrative. Unless you're out of options. But even then, the industry has rules. Unspoken, sure, but real. And Michael followed them. So what does it say that this one moment, just 2 words, broke the internet? Maybe it says we're tired of manufactured moments. Maybe it says audiences can feel when something's forced. Or maybe it says we're ready for people to earn their place again. Because Michael B. Jordan didn't build his career on selfies. He built it on substance. And that's why when he said, "Step aside," it wasn't cruel. It was clarity. And clarity, in a sea of Hollywood illusion, is rare. But what came next? Well, that's when Meghan's team scrambled. Because you don't just walk away from a viral storm like that. You fight back. You spin. You leak. And what her publicist did next would only make things worse. And no one saw it coming. The moment Meghan Markle stepped away from that carpet, blinking in the glare of Michael B. Jordan's quiet rejection, a war room was unofficially launched. It wasn't visible. It wasn't noisy. But it was real. And it began, as it always does, with a phone vibrating in someone's clutch bag. A frantic assistant. A buzzing publicist. A rapidly darkening group chat titled something like Gotham 9/11. Because by the time Meghan had returned to her waiting SUV, face composed but tension visible in the way she clutched her silver clutch, the story was already out there. Not just out there. Everywhere. And not in the way they wanted. Meghan begs Michael B. Jordan for photo, gets brutally rebuffed. Hollywood snub of the year. Step aside, heard round the internet. Gotham glamour turns awkward as Meghan Markle denied cast shot. It wasn't just gossip sites. It was Variety. Deadline. The Hollywood Reporter. Legitimate outlets. Verified journalists tweeting blow-by-blow timelines of the encounter. Annotated lip readings. Memes. Think pieces. And for Meghan's team, there was only one word for it. Disaster. This wasn't supposed to happen. She wasn't even supposed to be a headline. She was supposed to be adjacent to the headline. A supporting visual in a story about Michael's rise and Sinner's triumphant reunion. A footnote with strategic lighting. But now? She was the headline. For all the wrong reasons. So what do you do when that happens? You do what Meghan's team has always done. You try to reclaim the narrative. And that's where the real chaos began. The first move? Immediate reach out to a friendly UK tabloid with a history of soft exclusives. The pitch? Meghan shocked by cold reception at Gotham Awards. Feels frozen out by toxic Hollywood cliques. The angle was clear. Position her as the outsider. The victim. The woman once embraced by the glitz now being shunned by its hypocrisy. But the leak came with a twist. The real scoop? The publicist allegedly claimed Meghan had every right to be there, and that Michael B. Jordan misunderstood her intentions. Misunderstood. Let that word sink in. Not rebuffed. Not ignored. Just misunderstood. A framing device. Subtle. Designed to suggest that Meghan was warm, friendly, possibly even vulnerable. That she was merely asking for a collaborative photo, not clout. But the internet wasn't buying it. Not this time. The clip was too clear. The moment too crisp. There was no misunderstanding. There was a direct question, please, just one pic, and a direct answer, step aside. No ambiguity. No gray area. But still, the push continued. Next move? Media outlets began receiving anonymous emails clarifying Meghan's presence at the event. Claims that she was invited. That she had a quiet brand partnership with a sustainable designer being showcased that evening. That she was in talks for an executive producer role on an upcoming film with several cast members of Sinners. That she was never trying to insert herself into the photo, just passing by, incidentally. The problem? None of it could be confirmed. Not by Gotham organizers. Not by PR firms on site. Not even by the sustainable designer. Who posted an Insta story thanking another actress for wearing their gown. The Meghan link? Nowhere to be found. Worse, a prominent entertainment journalist posted a screenshot of their email exchange with Meghan's alleged publicist, completely redacted for anonymity, but clearly suggesting an attempt to retroactively legitimize her presence. Their caption? Damage control in real time. We see you. The blowback was swift. Suddenly, the effort to clarify the situation started to feel more like manipulation. Fans began digging. Media insiders started whispering. What had initially felt like a PR hiccup was starting to look like a full-blown credibility crisis. And the cracks kept widening. A fashion blogger tweeted that Meghan's outfit, a burgundy gown with sharp shoulders and minimalist accessories, bore a striking resemblance to Zoe Kravitz's Gotham Awards look from 2023. Side-by-side comparisons went viral. Was this deliberate? Was it a style tribute? A subliminal attempt to blur into the cast visually? Or just an unfortunate coincidence? No one could say, but the damage was done. By now, the clip of the step-aside moment had over 15 million views across TikTok, Instagram, and X. And that's when the panic peaked. Inside Meghan's PR bubble, desperation set in. A call was allegedly made to one of Michael B. Jordan's longtime reps. The message, we'd love to clear the air. Maybe a joint statement. Michael's team declined. Respectfully. Flatly. Then ignored the follow-up emails. Because here's the truth. You can spin a story. You can reframe a moment. But you cannot rebrand a boundary in real time when it's already gone viral. And yet, they kept trying. Anonymous sources began appearing in entertainment columns, painting Meghan as devastated, confused, and unaware of any tension. She thought she and Michael were on good terms, one source insisted. She was stunned by how cold the cast was, said another. But again, the receipts told a different story. Because people don't just remember this moment. They felt it. They watched it unfold in real time, over and over, until it became part of the cultural fabric of awards season 2025. The memes, the remixes, the reaction videos from body language experts, PR consultants, etiquette coaches, even ex-royal staffers who couldn't help but weigh in. One said bluntly, Meghan used to walk into a room and own it. Now she walks into one and gets asked to leave. It wasn't just humiliating. It was clarifying. Because here's what no one in her camp wanted to admit. Meghan Markle was no longer the main character. Not in this room. Not in this industry moment. Not tonight. And every attempt to reclaim the narrative only deepened that truth. But just when it seemed the spin had failed, one magazine prepared to publish something even more damning. A profile from a former collaborator who hadn't spoken publicly in years. And what she revealed would shatter the image of this night forever. And no one saw it coming. Why did he say it? Why would Michael B. Jordan, Hollywood's most diplomatic, measured, unproblematic leading man, look at Meghan Markle, and utter two words that would ricochet across the internet in real time? Step aside. It wasn't loud. It wasn't cruel. It wasn't showy. But it was deliberate. And here's the thing everyone missed in the noise. It wasn't just about that moment. Michael's refusal didn't emerge from nowhere. It didn't come from pettiness, nor from a lapse in professionalism. It wasn't about ego. It wasn't about spectacle. It was about history. Because behind that one viral moment lies a long trail of subtle tension, burned bridges, and unspoken lines that had been slowly, quietly, crossed over the past 5 years. This was the result. And to understand why he said no, we have to go back to where the fractures began. It started with Serena. Yes, that's Serena. Serena Williams. One of Meghan's most high-profile, close personal friends. A sister-in-arms during her royal transition. A woman she once praised in interviews, citing her strength and resilience. Even bringing her on her now-defunct Spotify podcast, Archetypes. But what very few people know is that behind the glamorous images and supportive quotes, something shifted after 2021. Insiders close to Serena began whispering about a growing chill. A sense that Meghan's interest had become transactional. That phone calls went unanswered. That favors, especially around Meghan's lifestyle brand and media pushes, had become relentless. Michael? He noticed. He and Serena had long-standing respect. Not performative friendship. Real friendship. They trained together occasionally. Shared charity work. Serena even once name-dropped Michael in an interview, saying, "He's one of the few guys in this industry who never makes things about himself." That's rare. So when Michael heard stories that Meghan had pitched Serena for a collab with As Ever, and allegedly gotten upset when Serena declined, it registered. Not dramatically, not with outrage, but quietly. Michael pays attention. And the Meghan-Serena rift wasn't the only red flag. There were others. Let's talk about the Vogue cover. Back in 2020, Anna Wintour allegedly entertained a pitch for a historic dual-cover feature, Black Hollywood royalty. The names floated? Michael B. Jordan, Lupita Nyong'o, Zendaya, and yes, Meghan Markle. A visual celebration of modern Black excellence across industries. But the pitch fell apart. Not because of scheduling. Not because of wardrobe conflicts. Because, according to a now-scrapped internal editorial memo, later leaked to a gossip blog, there was discomfort among talent regarding brand dilution. Translation? Some of the stars didn't want to be photographed next to Meghan. They feared it would become about her. That it would shift from artistic celebration to tabloid bait. Michael? He didn't say a word publicly. But privately, he passed. Respectfully. Quietly. That's his style. No drama. No shade. Just no. Then came the Oprah Gala. A major charity event. Red carpet, cameras, A-listers everywhere. Meghan attended as a guest of the foundation. Michael was there as a donor and presenter. Multiple witnesses saw Meghan's team angle for a photo. Michael declined, again politely. At the time, no one made a fuss. But internally, it was noted. Free moments. Free patterns. It wasn't personal exactly. But it was becoming clear. Michael didn't want to be seen as part of her orbit. So when the Gotham Awards rolled around, when Michael was riding high on Sinners, when the cast reunion was carefully orchestrated to celebrate artistic integrity, ensemble chemistry, and everything Meghan Markle doesn't represent in Hollywood right now, his line had already been drawn. She just didn't see it, or didn't believe it, because for years, Meghan had been able to position herself next to power, to associate with icons, to co-opt the imagery of excellence, even when her actual contributions were inconsistent. This time, the gate was closed. But Michael isn't petty. He doesn't lash out. So when she appeared, hovering near the photo call, trying to make herself visually present just as the shutters clicked, he kept it cool. She made her move. He responded with the firm, quiet finality of a man who had already made his decision years ago. Step aside. 2 words that said, not here, not now, not again. And here's where it gets deeper. Sources close to Michael say he had been briefed before the event that there was a possibility Meghan might try to approach, that she'd RSVP'd late, that her team had floated her as a surprise drop-in. He wasn't alarmed, but he was prepared. So when it happened, he didn't flinch. He didn't escalate. He just refused. Because Michael B. Jordan isn't just an actor. He's a producer, a brand, a man whose choices shape entire projects, whose presence on a press line can shift the narrative for an entire cast. He knows the cost of being seen with the wrong people. And to him, Meghan is the wrong people. Not because she's controversial, but because she's calculated. And when art becomes a stage for clout, Michael walks off that stage. And yet, he never gloated. After the moment went viral, after the memes exploded, after every outlet from BuzzFeed to BBC News picked up the Step Aside saga, Michael didn't tweet, didn't post a snarky caption, didn't leak a quote to a gossip blog. He let the footage speak for itself, because he didn't need to defend his actions. They were self-explanatory, and fans respected that. In fact, his silence elevated him. Comment sections flooded with praise. King behavior. Boundaries are sexy. More men in Hollywood should take notes. And just like that, Michael B. Jordan became something rare in the modern industry. A man who could say no without saying anything else. But while Michael stayed silent, the noise around Meghan grew louder. Because her next move wouldn't be graceful, it would be reactive. And when her PR team pushed a desperate spin into the press just 24 hours later, framing her as caught off guard and targeted by Hollywood's inner clique, it backfired hard. Why? Because Michael had said nothing. Because the only words that existed were, step aside. And that contrast between his simplicity and her spin made everything even worse. But what Meghan didn't know was that someone else, someone she'd once worked with, was about to break their silence. And what they'd reveal would blow open the real story behind her failed photo op. And no one saw it coming. It started with one blurry video, one shaky, zoomed-in fan clip posted at 10:47 p.m. EST under a TikTok username with fewer than 500 followers. Captioned simply, "Wait, did Michael B. Jordan just tell Meghan Markle to step aside?" Flushed face #Gotham Awards. The algorithm did the rest. By 11:12 p.m., the video had hit 100K views. By midnight, over 2 million. And by morning, it had ignited a cultural firestorm so intense, so polarized, and so viral. It made Slapgate at the Oscars look like a kindergarten dispute. Because this wasn't just celebrity drama. This was symbolism. Michael B. Jordan, a man known for his dignity, discretion, and discipline, had uttered 2 words to one of the most polarizing public figures on earth. And the internet couldn't get enough. Step aside. 2 syllables. No yelling. No chaos. And somehow, more effective than 1,000 takedown interviews. Why? Because it felt like something bigger. To some, it was about boundaries. To others, ego. To some, justice. To others, jealousy. Whatever it was personal. Everyone had an opinion. And they were loud. Let's talk about TikTok first. Within 8 hours, more than 9,400 videos had been created under the audio clip of Michael saying, "Step aside." Some lip-synced it over clips of people dodging toxic exes at parties. Others used it to reenact fictional office showdowns. One viral post layered it over a scene from Game of Thrones, replacing Daenerys' entrance with Meghan's arrival at the Gotham carpet, and Michael as a stoic Jon Snow refusing her. The caption? "Not today, Meg." It got 6.7 million likes. Another creator made a parody trailer called The Step Aside Saga, featuring dramatic music, black and white stills of Meghan looking crestfallen, and bold white text. One woman. One photo. One boundary too far. It was satire, but it hit a nerve. Because underneath the humor, people were choosing sides. On X, formerly Twitter, it was even more intense. Hashtags dominated the trending bar. Hashtag step aside. Hashtag Michael said no. Hashtag Gotham Gate. Hashtag Meghan versus Hollywood. Hashtag respect the cast. Hashtag not your moment. And then came the threads. Long, forensic, point-by-point breakdowns of Meghan's facial expression. Her positioning on the carpet. The fact that Michael glanced at her before speaking. The fact that she mouthed, "Please, just one pic," moments before the snub. People were pausing frames like it was the Zapruder film. Body language experts chimed in. You'll notice her posture stiffens. Her shoulders rise ever so slightly, indicating anxiety or an internal power negotiation. PR strategists weighed in. This is why authentic relationships matter in Hollywood. Manufactured proximity always backfires eventually. Even ex-royal correspondents got involved. One posted, "Hard to ignore the symbolism here." Once again, Meghan underestimated a room and found herself isolated by people she couldn't control. Ouch. Instagram took a different turn. The visual platform became the meme battlefield. Side-by-sides flooded the feed. On the left, the Sinners cast, radiant, unified, iconic. On the right, Meghan, alone, just outside the frame. Overlaid with captions like, "Main characters versus background extras," or, "When you try to insert yourself into someone else's story." And perhaps the most brutal of all, "Meghan, please, just one pic." "Michael, step aside." Narrator, "She did not get the pic." It was everywhere. Even fashion accounts joined in. The account at Style by Cinema posted a reel titled, "When your outfit screams, I'm the star, but the cast says, not tonight." They pointed out that Meghan's gown, while undeniably elegant, strikingly resembled Zoe Kravitz's 2023 Gotham look. Same silhouette, same color family, same neckline. Coincidence? Or calculated? The comments had opinions, and none were gentle. But as the internet combusted with jokes, clips, and speculation, something else happened. A second video surfaced. This one, even more damning. It showed Meghan just before the now infamous moment, leaning in, mouthing something. The phrase, "Please, just one." And then, Michael turning. A pause. Then, "Step aside." No mistake. No ambiguity. No editing tricks. This clip confirmed everything. And the tone of the conversation shifted. What had started as memes now became something more intense. More pointed. Because the one question people couldn't shake was this. Why did she ask? Why would Meghan Markle, who once walked arm in arm with Beyoncé, dined with Michelle Obama, and sat across from Oprah, ask for a photo like a fan at Comic-Con? Why didn't she already belong in that moment? Why wasn't she invited? Why wasn't she included? That's when the takes got hotter. One feminist blogger posted a fiery thread. Let's talk about entitlement. Meghan isn't being bullied. She inserted herself into a moment crafted by a cast who earned it. Michael didn't embarrass her. He defended the art. He protected his team. It got over 300,000 likes. But the backlash arrived fast. Defenders of Meghan fired back. Would he have said that to a man? She's constantly being shut out by the very industry she tried to elevate. It's always women who get told to step aside, especially black women. The debate grew vicious. Articles popped up overnight. The cut, step aside, and what it means for black celebrity culture. BuzzFeed, Michael versus Meghan. When boundaries become headlines. Vulture, is Meghan Markle too famous for Hollywood? Everyone had a take. But there was one consensus: this moment mattered. It wasn't just a meme. It was a metaphor. For fame. For access. For relevance. And the price of chasing the spotlight after it moves on. Meanwhile, Michael B. Jordan? He stayed silent. No tweets. No stories. No subtle shade. Just one Instagram post. A photo of the Sinners cast. No tags. No caption. Just a black heart emoji. Classy. Understated. Unbothered. But fans noticed. Because in that photo, surrounded by peers, beaming with authenticity, standing shoulder to shoulder with fellow artists, there was no room for Meghan. Not physically. Not symbolically. Not anymore. And yet, Meghan didn't log off. Her team made a move. A new angle. A new leak. One that would shift the blame. And reposition her as the victim. But in doing so, they'd trigger a reaction no one expected. Because one former insider was watching this unfold from the sidelines. And she was ready to talk. Her truth would finally explain why Meghan's red carpet strategy keeps failing. And what she revealed next. No one saw it coming. What makes a man command a room without saying a word? What makes photographers adjust their lenses, reporters shuffle toward the barricades, and actors pause mid-sentence just to catch a glimpse? Answer: Michael B. Jordan. And on the night of the 2025 Gotham Awards, his entrance wasn't just a red carpet moment. It was a cinematic event. The kind you could set to a slow-motion track and hear audiences cheer in your head before a word's even spoken. The Gotham Awards aren't known for bombastic arrivals. It's a place where prestige speaks quietly and loudly all at once.